Ang lesson again is authority is God's plan. So, most of us naay notion na lisod mag-submit to authority. Even gani as wives, no, to our husbands, sometimes we miss to submit to them because the society always inculcates sa mga minds na to ba nga we are equally created. So why man na kailangan na ay mo submit if we are equal? So this afternoon, in relation sa atoan na mga responsibilities as mothers, we will be learning the concept about authority. So again, authority is God's plan. So we have actually different views, no, of authority. So it is good and proper for some people to be in authority and for other people to be under authority. So that is the biblical view, the view. God has structured the world He made with a particular order. Okay, just imagine if walang someone ruling over us, our community will be in chaos, no? Pinagustuanay lang. There is a plan to the relationship God's creatures have with Himself and with each other. So that's the biblical view. But there is also this worldly view of authority. So what is the worldly view of authority? So sabi nila, once we hear daw the word authority, it either there is an overwhelming force, meaning someone rules because they have the power that cannot be resisted, or there is a ruling by consent, meaning someone rules because the people have given their permission. So for example, our government, so we permit them to rule over us, no? So dalawang sa worldview, there are two ideas about it. Authority as an overwhelming force, no, because they have power, and the other one is that ruling by consent. So yun daw yung worldview, and yung gipresent ko kanina, it's the biblical view. The biblical view is that it is God's design na someone has to be in authority and others will be under authority. So we have two different sa hierarchy, no? It's hierarchy in creation and hierarchy in people's relationship to each other. Sa first part, sa hierarchy in creation, there are three subcategories. God's relationship with humankind, the angels' relationship with humankind, humankind's relationship to the earthly creation. So, for the hierarchy in creation, under sa God's relationship with humankind, in Psalm 8, it describes the majesty and glory of God. So, it states there, O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. God is over all. God's relationship to people is vertical because we have two types of relationship, right? The vertical relationship and the horizontal relationship. The psalm extols the wonders of the creation and marvels that God would still be interested in humanity. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him? The Son of Man that you care for him. So that is Psalm 8, 3-4. Humankind's place is under God. So that's why we have a vertical relationship with God, because we are under God's authority. He is our creator and we are his creation. He is the creator who cares for us. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. So the following text in the Bibles, no, Matthew 5:45, also in Acts and First Peter. So that's our hierarchy, no, sa between our creator and us, the creatures. So how about the hierarchy in creation with regards to the angels and us humans? So people are also under a whole category of heavenly creatures. The angels who are always in the presence of God. Even though people are not the highest of all created beings, no, we are not the highest, but we are still creatures of great dignity. So in Psalm 8:5, you made him a little lower than the heavenly beings and crowned him with glory and honor. The angels are God's messengers to care for his people. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. So the following are the biblical references. How about our hierarchy, our humankind's relationship to the other earthly creations? Kasi nga, we are not the only earthly creation. There are other creatures. So our relationship with them, the hierarchy is that in Psalm 8:6 to 8, God says, uh, the author says, you made him ruler over the works of your hands. You put everything under his feet, all flocks and herds and the beasts of the field, the birds of the air and the fish of the sea, all that swim the paths of the seas. So the Bible requires those in authority to care for, provide for, and protect those under their authority. So those beasts, no, flocks and herds, birds in the air, fish and the sea, they are under our authority, the humans, no? So we are commanded to care for them, provide for them, and protect them. God is the model for the one in authority. He loves, provides, protects, and defends. People are the designated caretaker of creation. Their rule over the animals and the rest of the creation should imitate God's care and should never result in cruelty, carelessness, or destruction. So I would like to emphasize this part here, no? That we are in authority over other creations, but it doesn't mean that we will lord over them, but we have to take care, provide their needs and protect them because they are under our authority. So in summary, there is hierarchy in the created order. So basically, we have this thought na we are equal. Yes, we are equal in other sense. No, we will discuss that later. But we cannot deny the fact that there is really a hierarchy. God created and assigned to each part of His creation its place in the universe. So man, male and female, is made in the image of God. God has given him dominion over all the creation. God has put all things under his feet. Man has both the right and the responsibility to rule and exercise the authority God has given him in the creation. Man is a steward of all that God has created. He is higher than all other created beings on earth. He has the responsibility to rule the beasts, the birds, and the sea creatures. How about our hierarchy in people's relationship to each other? So, we cannot teach our children how to submit to an authority unless we understand a vertical structure where equals willingly place themselves under authority. It is true that human relationships are horizontal in terms of worth and dignity. So ito yung dimension ko ganina, that we are equal in one sense, no? We have this equality or horizontal relationship in terms of our worth, in terms of our dignity, because all of us are made in God's image and are crowned with glory and honor and are given rule over the rest of creations. In relationship to God and saving grace, all humans are equal. All comes to God on the same basis, and God is no respecter of persons. But at the same time, God has established spheres of authority and responsibility for mankind. So, these are the hierarchy in people's relationship to each other. So, we have authority in our workplace. authority in the church, authority in the state, authority in the home. So here, it is said that the contemporary mind has only two ways to respond to authority. Once gani we will hear the word authority, the usual thought that will come is that it is either rebellion or servility. We do not understand the idea of being an intelligent, independent, thinking person who is willing to be under authority. According sa author, we need to learn that submission is dignified and noble. Nice kay ni siya diri nga pagka-state. Ganahan kay ko ani. No nga, it doesn't mean that we are lesser being somehow, no? Because we submit. We need to learn that there is dignity, no, in submission. It is a noble thing. It is not servile and foolish. The Bible requires those under authority to respect and submit to leadership. Submission is enjoying the strength and honor of serving one's Lord by serving the authority He put in place. So that's why we are commanded by God to submit ourselves to those in authority. So again, the four aspects, no, wherein we can exercise either submission or leadership. So if you are the one in authority or you are the one being ruled over. So God has placed people in authority in the workplace, in church, in state, and in home. Lording it over those under authority, our authority, making others servile, is a wicked perversion and defacing of God's image. So, it's different na parang maghari-harian ka ng parang kung na gani ka kanang you think highly of yourself because they are under your authority, no? But the authority that we're talking about here is actually a different na ano sa authority. So we will learn more about that. So let's first tackle sa hierarchy in terms of authority in the workplace. So if it happens that you are the one no na nag-lead, you are in authority, you are responsible to care for those who work for you. So in Colossians 4:1, masters, provide your slaves with what is right and fair, because you know that you also have a master in heaven. Also in Leviticus 19:13, you shall not defraud your neighbor or rob him. Do not hold back the wages of a hired man overnight. So it is very clear, no, our responsibility if you are the one in authority. How about the responsibility of those under the authority? So those under authority are responsible to be cooperative with their bosses. So it is written in the Bible that slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, and do it not only when their eyes is on you and to win their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. So it's very clear. How about, so just to continue, submission to authority does not signify inferiority. So mao man dyan natong always na mas mas mubo ka kay dili ikaw ang nag-lead. Only difference in role and spheres of responsibility. So it's not that you are inferior, only that you have different role and responsibility. There is an interesting passage in 1 Timothy 6 that reconciles submission and equality. So I'll read sa 1 Timothy 6:1-12. All who are under the yoke of slavery should consider their masters worthy of full respect, so that God's name and our teaching may not be slandered. Those who have believing masters are not to show less respect for them because they are brothers. Instead, they are to serve them even better, because those who benefit from their service are believers and dear to them. So these are the things you are to teach and urge on them. So see, it doesn't mean that you are in authority, you will no longer somehow serve, no? This is in the context of the workplace. Na if ikaw yung leader, sige na lang commander, di ka mo dili pud ka mo do sa imuhang part, because clearly here, you are just assigned or responsible na higher, or maybe responsible in other things to do, no? But it doesn't mean that your subordinates are inferior than you. And also, if you are the subordinates, do not think pod na you are inferior. Instead, you work together because you are given different roles and responsibility in the workplace. How about in church? No, so in church there is also a hierarchy. God has established authority structures in the church. So elders, pastors, or overseers are called to direct the affairs of the church. It is mentioned here in 1 Peter 5:2-3, be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care, serving as overseers, not because you must, but because you are willing, as God wants you to be, not greedy for money, but eager to serve, not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being example to the flock. So, that's the reason na why there are things in the church na yung parang ang pastor and officers or elders, enough na for them na maka-decide, not necessarily na that the whole congregation must really know, because there are things na pwede nang madesisyonan at their level, because it has been established even in the Bible, no, that they are higher, no, in authority compared sa mga members. So we have to respect that hierarchy also. It depends upon actually sa issue or matter at hand, because but as member we have to also submit to their authority, to our elders, pastors, and church staff. People under their care are to listen. So we are to listen to them and heed what they say. How about authority in the state? So God has established authority structures in the state. The civil authority is God's servant and exercises authority that has given. The civil authority makes laws, defends its citizens, charges taxes, and punishes evildoers. So just imagine if walang authority sa state, no? So chaos gid kayo, gubot kay ang kalibutan. It is written in 1 Peter 2:13-14, submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every authority instituted among men, whether to the king as the supreme authority or to governors who are sent by him to punish those who do wrong and commend those who do right. So sometimes, ang church kay nag-go against sa authority sa state. So, example, when we are commanded not to hold services, good thing diri sa atoa we abide. But there are other places, no, here in the Philippines na still maskin bawal mag-make ng not sa atoa lang na group ha, other mga religious denomination, although meron silang mga local policies that they are to suspend their physical gathering, still they continue because they don't listen, no, to the recommendations and the local policy. So clearly they do not honor the authority of the state, in which biblically speaking we are commanded to submit, no, ourselves to the authority of the sa community, no. So that's it. So I hope wala diri sa atoa kanang mo kuan musukwahi kung unsa ang mga ginahimo na law sa atoa na community, sa atoa na city. How about, so we are actually parang pamubot sa atong scope, no, from the workplace, sa state, church. Now, how about in authority in the home? God has established authority structures in the home. Men are to provide loving leadership. laying down their lives for their wives. We can see that in Ephesians 5. Wives, on the other hand, are to receive and follow the leadership of their husbands. Children are to honor and obey their parents. So, sa part sa husband and wives, I guess we have already mga weekly reminders no through our Zoom fellowship every Tuesday that really, wives, we are to submit and follow to the leadership of our husbands. It is sweet and seemly for parents to rule and for children to submit. Instructing our children regarding the authority structures that God has created will form their thinking about the very concept of authority. This formative instruction is far more profound than merely training our children to obey. It gives them a model of how God has made things and how they are all supposed to function. So I like this part here that although there's really no wrong that we tell our children that they need to obey us, but it is good also or more appropriate that we tell our children regarding these structures that God has created parents because they are in authority no over their children so that they will form that concept of authority in their minds that they have to obey because parents are the one ruling over them. God has placed that hierarchy inside the home. So parents and children will never be equal in terms of this authority. So children really has to obey. They have to obey. Our society is confused about authority. Arrogant children give order to their parents. Parents lament but cannot control the hours their children spend on TV and video games. So sahay, even sa akong pag-umangkon, I can see that no na mas mas hawod or sa tawag na under ang parents kay magwild ang bata. So so paggustuan na lang. Biblical concepts of authority and responsibility have been replaced with negotiation and compromise. No, so we negotiate. Sige, tanaw ka TV, basta inani ha. So we always negotiate and sometimes we compromise. But that should not be the case. When our children clearly understand that authority structures come from God, obedience to parents will not seem to be a random requirement. It will be clear that obedience is an opportunity to be part of the order and beauty of creation and is an act of trust in God. So the mandate is coming from the Lord, no? Not just from the parents. So here we are introduced to circle of blessings. So God has drawn a circle in Ephesians 6, 1-3 in which children are to live. The boundaries of the circle are honor and obedience, and children are to submit to the authority of their parents. Kat, pwede niyo mabasa ang Ephesians 6, 1-3?
Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you and you may live long on earth.
Thank you, Kat. So children are to submit to the authority of the parents. So this is the circle. Ako lang siyang gigama-gama of blessings, no? So here na ang bata, just imagine sa sulod, and he will have the blessings if he will be surrounded no by these boundaries, honor and obedience. So children, obey your parents. Honor your father and your mother. So honor and obedience. The majority culture thinks of authority as despotism and submission, as servile. Many parents question the fairness of being authorities. They reason, since I do not like it when someone tells me to submit to authority, my children will not like it either. So kay ikaw mismo as parents, ayaw mo man to submit to authority. So somehow, mapass on din sa children. So parang ayaw ko din na na i-rule sila over because kahit nga ako hindi. So inana. So ang mugawas mura na lang silang barkada, dili na mother and son or father and child. So parents give away their authority. Children are allowed to choose what they will wear, what activities they will engage in, and what they will eat, and who they will spend time with. By the age that they are ready for school, most children see themselves as autonomous decision makers because they are always given freedom to choose. Parents give away their authority in thousands of transactions. So meron siyang example dito nga gihatag. Uh, Example, a mother says, "Honey, I am sorry. I forgot that you don't like oatmeal. Let's see, would you like some sugar smacks or cocoa puffs?" So, mao daw ni siya ang usual na to nga gina-ask. How much better it would be for a parent to kindly say, "Honey, I know that oatmeal is not your favorite. Maybe another day we will have something you enjoy more. But it is good, nutritious food, no, the oatmeal. So we are going to pray, thanking God for it, and eat it with a cheerful heart. Because, syempre, ang oatmeal is not totally bad naman. It's just that your child doesn't really like to eat oatmeal. So instead of negotiating and making compromise na magama nilang kalain na food, why not explain to your child that although that is not his or her favorite, but he has to eat it. Okay. Nutritious pa rin naman. So, even ako parang, for me, while reading this first statement, there's actually nothing wrong. Ay, kanang murag kung ako lang pud ba, kung ako lang sa akong mind, murag wala man po'y wrong, di ba? Nga mag-ingon kang maghatag ka ng options. Pero somehow, nakuha ko din yung author of this book, no, na somehow, meron kasing implications sa at the back of the mind of our children, parang, okay, ako always ang masunod, ako always ang mag-choose. So, parang ganun. So, when the time comes, they really think that they are the autonomous decision maker, which is not good. So there is a popular method of child management that powerfully illustrates the author's point. So example, "Honey, you can wear the red shirt, the green shirt, or the blue shirt. It's up to you." It does not occur to a 3-year-old that there are more than 3 shirts in the closet. He makes his choice. Mother is indifferent to which shirt the child chooses. All are equally appropriate. On the surface, it seems like a win-win. So parang tama, no? Wala may something wrong with this scenario actually. But actually, the child feels like he is the decision maker. Mother gets him to wear something appropriate and there is no fight. What could be better than that? So while all that sounds very good and quite enlightened, in reality, the subtext for the child is, so sabi daw, kung sa part pa ng child, parang sabihin ng child na, "You are the decision maker here. You have the right to choose, mom," something like that. "I may suggest the various alternatives, but it is your right to choose." So parang ibutang din nato ang place sa child, no, sa iyaha nga edad, sa bata pa siya, kanang pwede man na not necessarily nga always siya ang naay final say, no. We can actually we have the right to decide for them. So we as a culture are not shocked by this scheme, and it doesn't even seem inappropriate because we see the world as fundamentally horizontal. This child is not learning. So meaning if we always practice that, no, na although there's no totally wrong naman pag bigyan ng options always ang mga bata, but this child is not learning that God who is good has given him parents whom he is to obey. So hindi ma-practice ang obedience, and it is a blessing to live under God's authority. He is rather being taught to reject any authority other than himself. When we make our children independent decision makers, we give them an appetite for a liberty, that does not exist and a mistaken notion about freedom. So actually, we are not, uh, iset aside na to, of course, we are free from, ano no, once we are with the Lord, ano na ta, we are saved. Pero in this world, we cannot really attain no na kanang complete na freedom and liberty. So it's a wrong notion na parang we live on our own, parang you live only once, YOLO, so do whatever it pleases you. So it's not like that. This liberty does not exist because individual freedom with no authorities does not exist in the will of God for creatures. We are always people under authority. I like this subsequent na sentence, no. Freedom is not being able to do whatever you want. Freedom is knowing and loving God and living joyfully under the authority structures that God has ordained. So gwapo kayo siya no nga pagkasulti. Freedom is knowing and loving God and living joyfully under His authority, no, under the structure that He has ordained. So I will always obey your law forever and ever. I will walk about in freedom, for I have sought out your precepts. So that is in Psalm 119:44 to 45. Teaching our children biblical concepts of authority is a huge task. This is not a single lesson in devotions one night, but a daily activity in which we lovingly teach biblical hierarchy to our children. Ephesians 6:1-3 is a passage written to children. So we will read again, children, Ephesians 6:1, 1 to 3. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. So children, obey your parents. And we can exercise parang practical lesson ba, no? Sa kanila, na ma-practice nila, ma-exercise nila yung obedience and pag-honor nila sa atin as their parents if we will also create scenarios na ma-exercise nila yan. So yung as simple as yun nga, magpili lang sila ng kanilang suotin, no? Or yung kainin nila, na dili na to sila all the time na mo give in ta sa ilaha. They can actually exercise obedience. Kay sometimes manggod, maskin sa ako makatingta nga ni obey siya pag night time nga nag-conflict gyud mo, conflict ang inyong gusto tapos parang namali siya, then you want as a parent na okay, you obey me. So something like that. So parang always ganyan yung scenario. Why not sa other scenarios na seemingly not bad, no? Yung pag simple as pag-choose ng pagkain ganyan na we explain to them na why they need to eat kung unsa ang giserve, because it's you ang parents na mas nakabalo, no, what's good for them. So simple as that, then they can practice obedience and honor to their parents. So you could have this conversation with your child. God has drawn a circle. So you draw ko na circle in which children are to live. God, who is good and kind, who has made you and all these things for His own glory, who freely gives us every good gift, has given you a mother and a father who are wise, a mother and a father who are mature, and who have life experience. It is a good thing for you to obey mommy and daddy. Na I can just recall akong parents mag-always gid ni sila magsulti ani sa ako ang kanang sila lagi daw ang nauna sa kalibutan. So sometimes makatingta na ang mga bata ba that we are right, no? Kita nag-agi man tatanan og pagkabata na jud na usahay nga kanang murag feeling nato kita ang sakto, but ma-reprimand ta sa ato ang parents na dili mauni siya kay kami mo'y nauna. Example, maski nang uyab-uyab good mag boyfriend girlfriend sa elementary or high school, mention dayon na bawal inana ta. Sometimes ikaw parang wala may problem mag uyab-uyab inana didto, pero we have to submit to the leadership of our parents because they are they are wiser than us. They are more mature and they have life experience. So I hope ma-inculcate na siya sa mga anak nato. Uh, so here, there are rewards for obedience promised in Ephesians 6. So let's look closely at the expression of these four. Obedience, honor, it will go well, and long life. So sa obedience is submission to God's authority. Submission is Godward in its focus. We obey because there is a God in heaven. Obedience is submission to God's authority that causes a child to do what he is told to do without arguing, without stalling, and without challenging. When a child is arguing about whether it is legitimate for a parent to make a request, that child is not submitting. If that child has to be sold on what must be done, there is no true submission. Kan imuha pa bitaw siyang impang wat-waton, imuha pang kuanon para lang namutuo, usahay mo negotiate pa ta mo compromise, sige kanang panglimpyo or mag-study kay para sige na, mag-study ka, then naakay 1 hour of screen time, tanaw ka o Peppa Pig, something inana. So, kung naapagani mga bribery, mga inana, then that is not submission at all. So, whether with reward or wala, dapat, they have to learn to submit because submission to parents is submission to God, which is, God is the most, highest in authority. Even gani delay of obedience or delay in response or response when convenient, kung ano saan lang gusto. There is no submission at all in this scenario, no? The child is acting independently. Siya lang ang matuman. The effect is, I will obey you on my timetable, not on yours. So when a child is challenging a parent's authority or asking why in a demanding tone, that child is not submitting. Submission means responding to God's authority by cheerfully doing whatever is required. So, gwapo kayo siya. How about honor? Honor is a response to God's authority that causes a child to speak to his parents in a manner that shows respect for their role as God's agent of discipline and correction. So we honor our child. So dili lang nang mutubag-tubag. Ako sa una bata ba ko, grabe kay kumutubag-tubag sa ako ang parents. So dili gyud day maayo nga kuno say cute no pag mutubag-tubag ang bata ba kanang cute kay siya kanang murag little na nga aling maliit inana pero that is not actually cute because parang signs na yan siya nga they're not honoring their parents. Children should not speak to parents as though they were peers, no? Parang barkada lang. They must not speak in a challenging and disrespectful tone. They should not give mommy and daddy commands. They must speak in ways that show respect for the fact that God has placed their parents in authority. So we commonly hear children of all ages say things to their parents and that are so unkind, ungracious, that it would not even be proper to address a peer in that way. So naiuban ka ng irpat, inana, ang sana pa ng ubang tao, ganay, gani. Ay, siguro I guess kung Christian na family, we should not deal good na kanang murag as if kuan lang. It's good na parang barkada mo but there has to be limitation and dapat dili mawala na parents are parents. So they must be honored. Parang hindi lang na murag barkada lang ang atong turingan sa ilaha. Also in honor, joyful submission to God's authority creates a culture that is whole and biblical. Culture tells people how to think about each other and how to act toward each other. Our rebellious and disobedient culture is accurately reflected in the disrespectful manner in which children speak to their parents. We cannot begin with the proper behavior. We must build a foundation of Christian thought about authority. Proper ways of speaking and responding will follow. An important part of the foundation is teaching our children that the world is vertical for parents and children, not horizontal. So back to basic, back to what is the good foundation. We have to teach our children that the relationship is vertical. So kamo ang parents. Ako ang parents, ako ang mama dire. So, ikaw ang naa sa authority. Not horizontal relationship. God has designed children to be under parental authority because He is kind and loving. He has provided loving parents to watch over them as they grow. Parents have wisdom, maturity, and life experience. And children, on the other hand, as a result, they enjoy the protection and the direction as they learn about themselves and the world in which they live. In God's abundant kindness, He promises wonderful blessings as children honor and obey mom. So, mo to siyang circle of blessing, no? We are promised by God, no, that we will live well and live long if we will honor and obey our parents. So, I think it's almost 3. I think we will stop. We will just continue next Sunday.